You're right.
And there was some problem with the consensus was, well,
All right, we're ready. Hello. Hello, welcome everybody to the Wednesday, February 7th. Where did the winter go, huh? On a meeting in the Capital Region Transportation Council Planning Committee. Introduction, visitors issues, nobody signed up, right?
No registered to speak, but we'll do introductions.
Introductions, Steve Feeney, Schenectady County.
Bob Rice, New York DOT.
Greg Richard here, yeah.
Gage Berryman, Saratoga Springs. Kim Lambert, Saratoga County.
Chris Wallen, City of Schenectady.
John Scavo, Clifton Park.
Mike Butler, City of Mechanicsville.
I'm Rustin, Albany County Airport Authority. Andrew Krashik, City of Troy.
Mark Castiglione, Regional Planning Commission.
Tom Houlihan, City of Rensselaer.
Laura Robertson, Town of Niskayuna.
Sandy Miswitz, Capital Regional Transportation Council. And we'll start back here.
Hi, Mike Williams, I'm in the CDTA.
Kelly Kircher, DOT Region 1. Elisa Armando, Albany County.
I'm Simon, Transportation Council staff.
Mary Ward, Transportation Council staff. Tess Strasha, Transportation Council staff. Teresa LaFell, Transportation Council staff.
Chris Bauer, Transportation Council staff.
Melissa Shanley, CDTA.
Good morning, Andrew Tracy, Transportation Council.
Jacob Beeman, Transportation Council.
Jen Sponis, Transportation Council.
Good, thank you.
Online. We have Jeff Pangburn from Crate Manning Engineering, Stephen Maples from Transportation Council, Alexandria Carver, City of Schenectady, Brent Meredith. I don't know your affiliation, so if you don't mind, could you put that in the chat for the record?
He's Albany County.
Thank you very much. Chris Cade, McFarland Johnson, Ed Snyder, GPI, Joe Semino, CHA, Caitlin Repier from Montana Colony. Whoa, whole thing just jumped. I love it when it like reshuffles the names. Liz Cormos, Village of Boston Spa, Peter Comenzo, Town of Rotterdam, Sharon Butler, who is
City of
now
Salem.
representing where? City of Host. Thank you. And Virginia Bott sitting in for Kelly Cochran. Did I miss anybody online? Okay,
Good. Previous meeting minutes, January 3rd. Can we get a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion, Kim.
All right, go ahead, second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye? Anyone opposed, abstained, motion carries. Moving on to what, the tip fiscal constraint summary table 4.
yes, I will let Jacob do the honors.
So no major changes since January. We're still within our 5% over programming for each year. But we are slightly over programmed, for federal highway fund services, but overall in pretty good shape for right now.
Jacob, any questions for Jacob? All right. Summary table that everybody loves.
We are going to find out during our certification review, whether we need to continue doing it this way or not, or at least have that conversation.
Okay. All right, then action items. We got amendment 1, Rensselaer Riverfront multi-use trail. Is that gonna be Bob? Is that?
I'm gonna let Greg explain this.
Okay.
This is great. So it's related to the next one too, but
You're doing them separately?
yeah,
All right.
even separate, worthwhile. This one actually needs action because it's federal aid. The Riverfront multi-use trail runs, it's a PAT project that Rensselaer got that runs from Police Landing up to the Hilton boat ramp. And through the coordination with the Livingston Avenue Bridge project, we're gonna build about half the trail under Livingston Avenue. And the federal aid associated with it, sort of does it helps the contracting mechanism because explain that in a minute, there's an assumption federally on that project. So by building half of this trail, and it's also in the footprint of all the construction staging area, so we're gonna be in there with all the equipment anyway. So this modifies this project to add a statewide fund source of federal aid to construct this piece of the trail. And it'll be combined with the Livingston project for construction. So we're constructing phase 1. And then after all said and done, the city will deliver phase 2 and get the rest of the way up to the Hilton part. So it's sort of a cooperation amongst municipalities and overlapping project limits, so that's the long and the short of this TIP amendment. Any questions?
Carbon reduction flex money, and that's not coming from us.
So that's the New York indicator as it's coming from the statewide pool
Yeah.
funding?
So it won't count against the core funds. There's several buckets of carbon, one of which is flex, which is basically statewide anywhere money. And so that's the fund source we're using here.
How long is this trail?
Over about a mile in total.
A little over a mile. It connects to the other trails that were planned or are in place.
So there's a lot of associated infrastructure to put the trail in. Is that why 5 million for a mile of trail?
It's, I mean,
It transitions from Livingston Ave Bridge down, so I mean, there's a lot of.
Ramps and.
A lot,
Yeah, okay.
I just struck this piece of it because of Livingston.
What is the timeline for phase 2?
After the Livingston Avenue is complete. So I'd say 2027 or 28. In that range, we still have to figure that out with contractors, timing and building Livingston.
So same contractor for phase 2?
No.
Have to be
City's
It's
gonna
gonna be
let,
rebid, but it could likely be the same contractor since they've got all the equipment there.
And this will facilitate an off-road connection from the Hudson Electric Trail to the Livingston Avenue Bridge to the Empire State Trail.
That is the goal.
That's the goal.
Yes.
The ultimate goal would be to get to the Empire State Trail. I think we're still gonna have one short stretch from the Dunn to the park. That piece will still need to be
Yes,
done.
there's a piece of property that still needs to get right away.
And because of the condition of the Empire State Trail over the Dunn and the sort of detour setup we have now, and that's obviously, we'd like to see that piece done and get Empire State Trail across the new structure.
So the goal is remove it from the Dunn.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any further questions, Bob? This is an action item. We need a motion to approve this amendment. Can I get a motion to that effect? So,
Andrew made a motion, a second.
any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, staying, motion carries. Now we're moving on to amendment 2, Livingston Avenue Bridge.
so the Livingston Avenue Bridge, this is related, the big one. We are putting so Livingston Avenue Bridge was anticipated to be a recipient of a couple of FRA grants, which unfortunately were not successful. So the decision was made to proceed with state funds to fund the Livingston Avenue Bridge. This amendment shows currently a estimate of $550 million in construction. And we obviously want to bring it here because of the magnitude of the project and the regional mix of projects and the long history of a illustrative project that's finally coming to fruition. So we're adding this project for bringing it here for information purposes, and it's state funds, there's no federal. But we want to have it on the tip for all the public to see, and therefore the STIP. And it makes the merging of the two projects also feasible for the construction side, so. Here we are funding the Livingston Avenue Bridge, finally.
I mean, just to add to that, technically, we're not merging the projects. And I think that's why it may look, that's why we have different separate pins for each of them there. Because the environmental process was done differently. FRA's process led the Livingston Ave, while Federal Highways led the Rensselaer project. And they have two different processes that reached their environmental determination that Federal Highway was adamant that we did not combine the projects. They are combined they're being let under one design build contract, but that's why we're still showing this sort of the two pins here, that the Federal Highway led one is the federal aid job, and what would have been the determination that was done for Livingston Ave was done under FRA guidelines, and now being state funded. So that's sort of the reason why other projects you've seen, we put things into one pin and sort of roll them up as a, but that's why we're doing these as two separate pins.
Does the scope of the bridge replacement, go to the warehouse area where the rail runs immediately adjacent to?
It does, if I understand it correctly, the tracks are gonna merge back into the existing alignment just before the central warehouse, as I understand it. And then, but the new bridge is also gonna have the pedestrian connection directly to the Skyway. So you'll be able to walk up the Skyway and the grades under there are, it's gonna directly tie in, and then that's the access to get across to the Rensselaer side. And obviously, on the Rensselaer side, constructing some logical termini there too. So,
But nothing relative to the city of Albany addressing that issue concurrently with the rail?
no, we're not taking care of the central warehouse with our contract. I don't envision.
What's the schedule? I'm trying to make sense of the schedule. I mean, is this thing been in design and?
We've been designing this for years. You know, the last, the major milestone was about a year ago when they arrived at the record of decision with the event at the Palace Theater. And since then, they've been figuring out the design, build, delivery, which is where we're at.
So construction 23, 24?
They are approaching a designation of the design build contract. It's not a let job, so it's not just an award, but we're approaching the phase of designating this. And, so then the design build team will do the final design, because that's the whole point. If we didn't design every nut and bolt on the thing, we gave them a ish picture and said, finish the design and then build it. And so the designation of the team to finish design and then put shovels in the ground, will commence, but the timeline of shovels is probably still measured in many months away because of the final issues that to hash out.
And I think, I mean, you're gonna see activity out there. Anyway, we've gotta get some trees cleared before the end of March, so they'll be right out. It's actually the reason that we need the additional policy committee meeting is the clock is ticking for the award to the design build contractor. So.
Sorry, project.
We'll have a main office, will present at that meeting next week, to provide hopefully, some more information to the membership on.
Yeah, like Greg said, there hasn't been a lot out since
Yeah.
the public meetings related to the environmental determination, so Jim Bonney from our large project groups, Jim used to be in the region here, he'll be doing a presentation and overview, not so much focused on these amendments that's before you, but sort of a status update for everybody of the project and the sort of things that you're asking are good questions for them.
If the existing bridge had a failure this year, would we, the state, be paying for it? Would the railroad be paying for it so that it could get across?
That question is over my head. The primary functional issue is the turntable.
Yeah.
On there, so if it stayed shut, the winter time's not as much an issue here, but everybody's got their fingers crossed every time they open it and they have to close it again. And so in theory, it's Amtrak has got a lease to CSX and, it on paper, it's theirs.
Yeah.
But it's the collective we's.
Right. But they're not helping, they're not facilitating any of this, right? Doesn't seem like it.
Facilitating, they would probably say they're facilitating, because that doesn't involve the
Without
money
money.
pieces. No, I mean, it's a collaborative effort. Our folks are constantly in contact with the Amtrak folks related to the design component of it, but obviously the resources here, I don't, they could not program this themselves.
Yeah.
Anything else for Bob?
It says cost increase 458 and that says 608.
Total six.
There was a couple of
Yeah, I think that's
iterations
typo and it's a remnant from
Yeah,
an
yeah.
older letter. That should be 608-006.
I'd like to move that it says addition of project over $500,000 to policy board. I think that addition of project over 500 million, we should at least bring donuts.
We can add.
No, it's a factor of a little bit, you know?
Yeah. This project is the value of our 5-year program. So,
You know, by far the largest investment in the area. Since DOT's been doing this stuff.
Big project.
Yeah, do a change order and take the warehouse down. No one knows.
A rounding error.
Right.
I know. All right, anything else? Are we ready to vote on this? And we're looking for a motion where we're recommending this to the policy board.
Yep.
Was that a motion by
I'm gonna make a motion.
second?
Chris and Bill.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? Staying? Livingston Avenue Bridge. Wow. big,
What about still?
you know,
I just to be clear, it's a completely new structure south of the existing structure. That's what you're doing. So rail will be essentially in operation the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay, another third amendment here. Bus plus red line upgrades. This is Melissa.
Hi, good morning. So this is to add funding to the TIP for CDTA was awarded a competitive award through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program and implementation grant to fund pedestrian and infrastructure safety upgrades along the red line in the city of Schenectady. This is a part of a project that's already on the TIP that's been ongoing for a couple of years. So the rest of the funding that mostly came from the BRT set aside, some of that will be kind of pushed ahead to a later phase of the project for the Albany area of the line. But this funding is competitive federal funds awarded for these safety improvements in Schenectady.
Any questions for Melissa? Any further discussion, then we need a motion to,
I just wanted to point out, what surprised us about this is we were told that while we were doing the planning study in the region, that we wouldn't be eligible for implementation funds, so this proves everybody wrong. So hey, if you are interested in going for implementation funds, keep that in mind.
Not only to say no, but it was hell no.
It was I mean, you were witness
hard.
to it, it was a hard no, it was a hard no,
So
so.
who?
And you had to do it as a team and not as a one.
Yeah, that's our federal highway reps told us this, so when we saw this award, and
No, it's great. that you
it's great
got
that they got it, but you know, it's how one hand doesn't talk to the other even at the federal level, so. So lessons learned.
I'll move it.
we have a second.
Lord.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, abstained? Plus red line. Oh, we're on to our fourth amendment. I need a motion to pavement resurfacing I-90 from Corporate Woods to I-787.
So at PSC, we have a final engineer's estimate for this project, and right as we were wrapping up, a new edict came out about highway pavement striping, and that now on interstates, we need to grind in the stripes, it's similar to what the thruway does, they grind down paint so that now the plows and traffic don't rub the stripes off, so in theory, they last 2 to 3 times as long, is the idea. And they can use safety money for it because it's a new initiative for wet road and nighttime reflectivity. So there's an expense to it, but it comes with a new fund source of HSIP, but again, from the statewide pot of HSIP, the newest priority for the traffic folks. In addition, we also have an engineer's estimate that actually is lower, so we are finally putting some money back into the TIP. And part of it's a result of estimates were generally including all things like roadside guide rail and things, but this segment of road had a major project about 15 years ago, so there's very little roadside need, so, it's really strictly a pavement job with the new safety, reflected, pavement markings included.
So this was on our tip,
Yep.
and now you're using a different fund source, it's not,
Just for the one piece, just for the striping.
Still using NHPP for most of it,
Okay.
and a little portion for safety funds.
The tip impacts actually the 1.8 million less.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a reduction in the NHDP for the.
The other 150 is off the statewide source to try these new paving markets.
You feel the pavement markings when you drive between the lanes? Like is it a,
No, it's like a 8 to,
okay,
you know.
I'm just trying to think if it's not like a rumble, it's not a,
No, I mean, if you don't know they're there, you probably won't notice them. You know, if you drive the throughway, they do it everywhere.
Just trying to recess it a little bit to try to, so the plows don't
We're
roll out.
grabbing the reflective off.
Just aside, you mentioned guide rail. Will there be new standards for guide rails with the issues of EV weights?
I don't know if they're there yet with new testing updates for that. It's a good question. I haven't heard of any updates for that.
for the discussion. Need a motion to approve this amendment for I-90 resurfacing.
Motion.
Okay, we have a second.
Laura? Is it-
Further discussion, all those in favor, aye? Anyone opposed, abstained, motion carries. Moving on to Bridge, New York.
So I'll start it off just, only to show the map of where we received applications, which. I don't know. I think I didn't make it in here. Anyway, sorry about that. I'll turn it over to Andrew. He'll walk through the, results of the solicitation.
Okay, good morning. We've scored all of the Bridge New York projects. We received 19 applications in total from 12 different sponsors. These applications were due in December. We wrapped up our scoring in January, and DOT established a funding amount for each county separately. So we scored the projects and then we ranked them within each county against only other bridges in that county. So for Albany County, there was 2.87 million available. Rensselaer had the most at 7.86 million. Saratoga had 3.8 million and Schenectady County had 1.7 million. And DOT established these targets as a function of the number of bridges and condition of the bridges in each county. So we'll go through each county one at a time with the results of the scoring and our recommended funding scenario. Beginning with Albany County. There were 3 bridges in this county, all from the county itself. So we recommend that the top ranked bridge, South Albany Road Bridge, get the full 2.87 million available. We spoke to the county, we spoke to Lisa Raimundo, and she said that the County Route 53 bridge is their first priority and they commit to funding the remaining amount. So the county will kick in the remaining 1.8 million needed to get to their preferred bridge. Moving on to Rensselaer County, this is the only county where I think we'll need to have some discussion and come to a decision. This was the most competitive county. If you actually continue scrolling, there's even more on the second page as well. There were $25 million total requested from this county and 7.86 million available. So our recommendation was to fund the 3 bridges highlighted here. Brookview Station Road Bridge in Skodak, Cockrell Road in Hoosick, and Groveside Road in Rensselaer County. We have a small correction in the mail out. We said that Sand Lake has an existing Bridge New York project and Rensselaer County does not. They both have an existing Bridge New York project. For what it's worth, Sand Lake has 3 federal projects on the tip at the moment and Rensselaer County has 5. So we recommended skipping over Johnny Cake Lane for a couple of reasons. First, the Johnny Cake Lane Road Bridge in Sand Lake has a parallel bridge less than 100 feet away. whereas Grove Side Road has much longer detour lengths. In addition, we wanted to try to spend as much of the 7.86 million available as we could in the county. The state said that we can't exceed the 7.86 million, so we can't put an additional bridge in if we fund Johnny Cake Lane or any other bridge. So that's the recommended funding scenario. If we fund the top two bridges and then we skip down to Grove Side Road from Rensselaer County, then we would be spending 7.4 million of the 7.8 million available, leaving just a small amount on the table.
And
Yes,
the towns put in the application, so those are, the towns would do those two bridges.
yep, those are, yes.
Have those towns ever done a federal aid project?
I'll defer that question to Jacob.
They both have.
Okay.
So that was our recommendation for Rensselaer County. We can move on to Saratoga County. This one was also pretty easy. The top ranked bridge was Finley Road in town of Falston. We spoke to Gregory Ball from Saratoga County, and he said that their preference was to fund Heath Road over the one that we highlighted in the mailouts. There is an existing Heath Road rehabilitation project on the books for $375,000. So if we add the additional federal share from Bridge New York, then they'll be able to fund it and leave only a very small amount on the table for this county. So we recommend funding Finley Road for town of Falston and the Heath Road Bridge for Saratoga County.
Yeah, when I talked with Greg yesterday, that was their preference.
Okay. And then finally, Schenectady County, we had one application from this county for the full amount, so thank you very much for making this one very easy. Crane Street Bridge is an existing TIP project, of course, so they're requesting that the available Bridge New York funding be added to that existing project for the full amount of 1.73 million. So that is our recommended Bridge New York funding scenario.
When's the culvert information coming up?
I'll defer that to Greg, the state's handling the culvert solicitation.
The applications, yeah, it just came in, the teams are scoring them now.
We had a total of 43 applications for a total of about $55.2 million. And our allocation was just shy of 15 million, 14,980 or something like that. So, you know, you had
You have the county,
25 to 30%.
you have the county breakdown.
Did you speak to Rensselaer County?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that, is Rensselaer County there?
We did not. We sent this out in the mail out to everyone last week.
We have a representative, from the legislature, who's attending today. I don't know if she can speak to the specifics of the bridge program.
I just didn't want to go on something that they won't. It's different. But
We
everyone
gave
else
them an
is,
opportunity to
Okay.
weigh in.
I just had a quick question, saying if anybody knows, the Brookview Station Bridge is, do you know where that is? Is it actually the one that goes around Amtrak and 150,
I'm sorry, which bridge?
Brookview Station Road in Skodak?
The Skodak one?
Yeah. Do we know any particulars about it? Is Andy call? That might be crazy, but that's, looks new, doesn't it? What's there?
Andrew, we had a map, and I'm sorry, it's not, somehow it got cut out.
I can't even.
If you're on the network, you can pull up
Rolling on.
Is there a map
the
somewhere?
application
150 was
or
just
the map
redone.
from the,
Where's this?
Skodak, because
yeah, that's
the road kind of goes from downtown East
Where is
Greenwich
it?
to
so that
Castleton.
would be an infrastructure folder.
It's a major thoroughfare
Yeah.
and this,
And
I
then
live
Bridge New
a
York
mile
3.3,
away. I mean, the bridge is
and then go to, I guess,
fresh.
application.
That's cement from last time I can
And then that
remember.
one would be,
Trying to figure if it's there, there's another river around the corner, if that's a secondary
it
bridge.
would be called Town of Skodak dash Brookview Station Road Bridge, and then, yeah, pick the, application which is today. There it is.
structure 84 years old, 27%.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the one you're thinking of.
Okay.
If it's 84 years old.
It might be a smaller one down over there. Okay.
Where there's flag.
I'm just thinking maybe go around it and then you cross the border. I was just looking at a map.
Yeah.
So it's all 27 feet, that's not, you may not even see it, like a big cul.
Yeah.
That's what, when you come around, go under and then go cross over. Yeah. Okay.
I will say just from kind of condition rating of 3 on the 1 to 7 scale, which means it got the full points for the condition score, which is why it ranks so highly. So it's in the worst condition of any of the bridges that we're seeking funding.
This, I'll say this and get in trouble from when I go home, like, we need to have somebody from Rensselaer County showing up, and I don't know how strong
Well,
we can
I
say
mean,
that.
again, we have a representative from the legislature here.
We need
She's
to-
saying her speaker is not working.
I know lots of legislators on each county, and I don't think most of them would be equipped to discuss a full-blown infrastructure project as an engineer or planner would, so.
Yeah, my only thing,
I know.
as long as the towns can deliver on them, if that's the evaluation, because none of the towns are here either, right? So.
Correct. I mean, the assumption here is that these folks can deliver. Obviously, Skodak and Huzik, they probably had and have had federally projects in the past. I can't speak to whether the individuals there right now were involved in that. But, I'm certain that, they'll do their best to deliver these projects.
Now, do we have to take this one county at a time? Is that how we're doing this? Or are we doing this all at once?
Did you need it?
No, I think we can do the full,
Do it all at
full
once.
funding program. if
All
everyone's
second
okay with what's being proposed.
All of them?
Just go down to the Rensselaer, the other page for Rensselaer. Okay. So they only, the county only put in the 2.
Yeah, our county only put in the 2 projects.
All right, and so we'd be looking to approve staff's recommendation with the one change in Saratoga County, correct, to the
Yes.
Heath Road?
Yeah.
Right? So can we get a motion to approve the Bridge New York recommendations by staff?
I'll move.
Yeah, second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed, abstained, motion carries, right?
Thank you.
Now, moving on to what, seeking input on funding reallocation, our complete streets, nobody applied. Okay, we've got the-
Yeah, so we have had over the last few years, a workshop program, for complete streets. And when we solicited for, workshops this year as part of our UPWP solicitation, we didn't get any requests. At the same time, Albany County, we partnered with on a county-wide workshop, so all the municipalities within Albany County who were willing to participated in the one we had in the fall. So we're kind of bringing this back to the group to see, are we at a point where municipal workshops for kind of complete streets 101 training is really not what we need anymore? And how else can we use these funds to support complete streets work locally? So a couple of ideas we're pitching here are maybe doing a bus tour and having sort of a show and tell, if you will, by folks who've implemented complete streets projects and kind of talk about, their experiences and what they've seen. That's one concept. Another concept is maybe using these funds to do one small scale demonstration project. We have to figure out, how we would select it and where it would be. But that would be another concept. We could also re-release the call for workshops. But our concern with that is with local government capacity being what it is right now, we're just not certain that more workshops on this topic is really the right thing to do. And then if those the first 2, 3 ideas don't resonate, we thought we could redirect these funds to help build our regional complete streets policy, which we'll be building as part of the regional transportation plan update anyway. So.
Is it possible to use the funds for elements of complete street workshops? Like, for instance, if you have an area where bicycle lanes are difficult. Every other element of the complete street process could pretty much be accommodated, but bikes are tough. Can you have like someone from NACDO or wherever come and speak how the integration of bicycle routes within a complete street motif could happen or could be facilitated? Or would it, the complete street workshop have to hit on all the?
I mean, I think we could reframe the workshop, concept. We would have to, we already have a consultant, which is planning for places with, Sam Schwartz, is that correct?
Yes. And also, what's the name of the? Yep, that's one of them.
You know, we've worked with them, JMT.
Yes.
JMT Engineering. So we've worked with them, that team more or less the last few years on these, and I think that's part of the conversation even they were having with us, which is, you know, how can we redirect this? If there's some kind of a specific needs, I suppose we could consider maybe sort of an on-demand approach. Where if there's a local issue like you're describing, folks could reach out and we could provide technical assistance in that manner. With the consultant team. I mean, that would be an option.
How much money?
There's about $22,000 left in this contract.
So it's a small.
It's a small amount.
And how would you solicit a demonstration?
Exactly. I mean, we'd have to do, you know, the whole formal thing, you know, for a demonstration project, and how do we evaluate, you know, who gets it, right? It would be.
One of the things that's developing is with the new MUTCD, people are going through it now to see what the changes are. I guess it's adopted some elements of ProAg, but not all, so I'm curious what some of those changes are gonna be for the bike ped accommodations.
Well, we don't know yet what New York State's gonna do with the supplement, so they have 2 years to adopt the MUTCD, so that's probably part of why we're not jumping ahead marketing the new MUTCD, because we don't know what the state's going to do with the supplement. So there may be new ideas that are in the federal MUTCD that are not gonna be implemented here in New York and vice versa. Is that fair to say?
Well said.
Yeah, I just feel like from a town's perspective, like the 101 shop, like I think we did it in 2016, 2017. And still like highway department and stuff didn't understand complete streets, so it was super useful. But I don't run into people who don't understand complete streets very much anymore. Like I feel like they did their job getting the understanding out. I know that like, I don't think we need one anymore, but we love demonstration projects. We try to do them ourselves with varying success. But yeah, I feel like complete streets has been, at least in my world, pretty well accepted and adopted now.
So what do you think the biggest challenge in additional adoption of complete streets policies are? Is it public perception, public misperception? Sounds like the people that are in the know are on board with it.
Yeah, I think the challenge is getting it over the finish lines with local government folks, right? The elected officials. So, you know, and there's varying degrees of that in the region. And we have some communities, Muscatine being one, that you guys are pretty active in this space. We have other communities that, you know, haven't formally taken actions, we'll call it, in developing a policy. And that's why, you know, we can redirect these funds to help with policy development as well, but again, you know, I think our staff concern is local government capacity right now at the staff level. To pursue this work, and that's why we were trying to think of ways we could maybe at a more regional scale.
Is 22,000 enough for demonstration? I'm not as familiar
It
with,
is,
is it,
yeah.
I mean, maybe if you got some sort of unique demonstration, like something that hasn't really been done anywhere else, or
I mean, in the
something,
future.
something that might be useful. I mean, I don't know what people would come up with if they had something in their community. Maybe that's the way to go. That, and once again, maybe you don't get any response, and then you're back to the drawing board. But
Yeah.
I know in Schenectady done a number of demonstration projects,
And
and you know, some are being implemented. The Contra Flow Bike Lane was a demonstration project, and we're implementing that. Some of the other ones, I don't know, you know,
I mean,
the standard sort of
we
bump
did
out
a-
thing is.
I don't know if it was through the MPO, but you know, years ago around City Hall, we painted the area green. That was the Capital Roots grants. And we implemented that. So there are things that we're doing, you know, right now municipalities, all of them are taxed out here, right? The other, but conversely, if there was something to be done, we've had a lot of turnover in development. We've had 4 directors of development since I've been city engineer. And we have a new planner who's right out of college, you know, so I'm sure that they talked about it. And I'm sure that they, I don't know what goes on in Saratoga County. I heard that's fun, but I never know. And maybe it comes up there when everybody from this room goes up to Saratoga County, but something educational would be good just to hit on it, but I don't know if it needs to be. I don't think we have an adopted complete streets plan, but it doesn't really.
Seems like most projects that people undertake, people are cognizant of complete streets. I mean, they try to implement things. I mean, I think most projects on our tip I would say, design is, when they're in design, they're looking at complete streets, right? It's almost a requirement, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And
there's definitely the complete streets elements more and more in the capital program here at our office. I think for town, cities and villages, you all have a unique opportunity to do some things on other types of roads that maybe the federal aid doesn't reach. And that allows you to be more creative with how you design your street space, right? And so it's the combination of those two things that I think offer the most benefit. And Mayor Butler, we just did a project with you folks to demonstrate design treatment on an intersection. Maybe you can talk about that experience a little bit.
That was our Davenport Square interchange, and Jennifer came up and it was 99% well accepted by the people that took part in it. There were a few drawbacks because it's been this way for 100 years. People don't see there's any need and change, but it's a rather large intersection, and we came and put in temporary crosswalks. There's a restaurant that's gotten quite popular. And one of the reasons I was kind of looking to do this is our school bus garage is actually gonna be using this intersection. It hasn't quite moved yet, which was kind of, we were hoping to have this study done when the school bus moved to see how much, it's gonna increase the volume of traffic substantially by larger vehicles. And right now, the way you move into the intersection, you kind of creep into the center because there's stop signs back a large distance. Then you drive 100 feet, now you're in the intersection. So there's, 4 ways of traffic. And we tried and one part of a stop sign is right against the building. So, we're trying to move that intersection towards the center more, so the buildings it's more of a lane, you come into a common area more than just a large circle and try to tell who has the right of way. So, I mean, we got quite a bit of feedback on it, and most people are receptive to it. And, I thought it was a wonderful way of doing it, the temporary crosswalks, and we do have a problem with utilities because there's a large power line that's we would like it moved. It would make the whole intersection so much better, but I've been talking to NICEAG about it, and they're not quite receptive to moving this power pole for us yet because of the large transmission lines that carry it through. So that's kind of a stumbling block, I feel, because if we can't, I was hoping they would move the power pole for us, but they're kind of throwing it back in our court. And but overall, I thought it was, it was the first time I was involved in anything here with the actual group, and I thought it was well done, and it was very enlightening in how it happens.
So maybe, doing something that highlights successes related to complete streets in the capital district with testimonials like the mayor just provided, so that other elected officials can hear from their peers about their experiences with complete streets. And maybe that piece could also allay some of the unfounded concerns the public brings up. And it could be used as sort of a marketing piece for the benefits of complete streets. That's something you could do with a $22,000 budget pretty easily. And you could also provide, talking about the turnover, a longer treatment about complete streets, training. So you already have videos, and that wouldn't be too difficult to provide.
Could they put together maybe, I'm just trying to think of things like a packet that almost shows like just a regional packet that says, you know, or what the complete street is recommended and where it is, like kind of like your bus tour, but in a packet, if people don't go on the bus tour. One of the things that, the council has asked me to look into, and I just don't have the time right now, was it's some kind of a mini roundabout. It's not a roundabout. It's like a landscaped island that you put into a very large intersection to make it feel smaller for traffic control. We have like a half dozen locations that it could be feasible, but I don't know where one of these is implemented somewhere else, right? Similarly, when I started, they asked about.
I don't know. You need a junction, Chris.
What?
You need a junction. You're gonna go to Scotland or Ireland. So.
There's at least one in.
Okay.
I think you should put one in Troy, because our complete streets committee. is gonna-
I don't think they're a roundabout.
Yeah,
No, they're
the
mini.
mini one got.
Or just a mini, if it's a roundabout, it's micro roundabout.
Yeah, so I'm just saying something, I don't know about that, somebody else, you know, when I started with the city, you know, CHA proposed at Erie Boulevard where we have an all red, they proposed a crosswalk that looked like an X. And I was 31 years old and I said, you're not doing this to me first day. I go, I'm not putting an X in the first day, but it makes sense because it's all red, you're not supposed to move, everywhere it says. You're not supposed to be in the intersection at all, you know, you could run right through the middle of it, but still to have the only crosswalk in the capital district that if you went to Google Images looked like this, I was like, I'm not doing it. But if there was examples of in other layers, because I know that all reds are coming, you know, things like that might be useful to flip through and do it. It is nice to go see things,
Yeah.
you know, in the region.
So I think the consensus, if I'm hearing you all correctly, is we would redirect the money toward some kind of a report that included testimonials, local examples, not only demonstration projects, actual project implementations, some of the pros and cons of things to build support for more of this work. Is that
Almost
pretty much sum it up?
Yeah, maybe presentations or like other complete streets.
Mhm.
I don't know if that flows the budget, but that was like a good presentation. To have it live, or people invited to come and see it.
With a presentation.
Even if you reached out of the.
The locals.
To find examples, you know, states.
We've already done the Capital District Complete Streets Design Guidebook, which is a phenomenal resource, so it's almost like a supplement celebrating the successes and local successes off of the good information in that design book.
In my head, I was just balancing what would be more beneficial, like a handout or presentation versus bus tour. And I wonder if the budget could be stretched to do a demonstration project plus a bus tour that was maybe targeted to certain officials or like a very limited bus tour to actually see the demonstration project, because that could be very powerful.
I don't think the funding would support both,
Okay.
but it's something we can take back, you know, as we work through. And this kind of conversation is what we're hoping we're going to have as we build this new long-range transportation plan, because we do want to refresh the services that we offer and what is most important to you all, and what's going to be most helpful to you all moving forward. So this is very helpful feedback for us.
I mean, the 22,000 on our part, I mean, it was a relatively inexpensive project for us because our in-kind services, we had a police officer sit at the intersection at least an hour per shift. We did the markings, so I mean, it wasn't that expensive to do. You could do probably at least 3 of the projects for this much money if you had a relatively small project. I mean, because the in-kind service that we supplied was, you know, majority of the cost and, you know, it was, you know, beneficial to the end result of the project.
Guaranteed it.
So
Settling on compiling examples in the region, success stories,
Yeah.
stuff that was potentially implemented after a demonstration project. Maybe reaching to other regions of the state, for example, something like Chris was talking about with the mini roundabout, if that is not available locally.
Yep.
Something like that.
something like that.
And the reason we asked for the demonstration was because we were turned down on our initial application for, after our study and after talking to the group here, they thought if we had some more information, it would make our plan a little, more sellable. So it's a way to, I mean, you get turned down this year, and I know you could try to if you feel it's a viable project, I mean, that's what we're hoping for. That's why we were looking for the help.
The testimonial wise too, I mean, not to say I want to be quoted, but if you put together a handout together, I would want to state in there that that Capital Roots project, what was interesting about that project is they anchored into the asphalt, and everybody knows asphalt is soft, it's not like it stays, rubber stanchions all the way around to delineate what the curb would be or what the area would be. And they put probably 40 of these things in place, and everyone, including myself, was like, how long are those gonna last before someone wipes them out? And they lasted 3 months, and we took them out, and I don't think any of them were hit. So I just, the idea of, no, I know it went, no, it doesn't go through winter, but it was a demonstration project. But I just know everybody in this room, the cynics in you, when you put those things in, you go, they're gonna get hit. And we put them in. Now, it was a stop controlled area, but still, it's in the city, and not one of them got hit. So they can work in certain situations, and we still have them, but that was an interesting, where everybody would say, never do it that way, and it's like, no, we did it that way.
So the passion of that story does not come through in a report, but it
Yeah,
would come through in like a
demonstration
video or something. And the video could be like a virtual bus tour that would be evergreen. So the bus tour is sort of like it's a one hit or miss proposition, right? But if you capture the passion of the elected officials, of the people that actually work with these projects, I think that has.
I don't know if the video is gonna work for 22 grand, but we'll see what, we can bring that back and see what we can.
Ever seen Apple commercials, just do it on your phone.
Yeah.
You all just.
And keep in mind, we'll be doing, as part of the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program this year, we're gonna be doing many demonstration projects in the region. So, we're certainly gonna be doing them in Saratoga and Albany and Troy and, hopefully one in somewhere in Schenectady County. So I mean, there will be demonstration projects coming over this next year. We'll get more information as well.
So, do we have an answer?
I think we have a general concept. I mean, we'll have to work out the details, but
This isn't an action item, right?
it is an action item because it's gonna have to go into our UPWP.
So what would be the action?
The action would be to redirect the consultant budget from Complete Streets workshops toward the development of we'll call it a success story presentation report, something like that.
It's the sound. Okay. Any
A project to highlight successes of complete streets in the region.
There you go. Project highlights success stories, of Complete Streets in the region.
So, any further discussion? Well, I guess we'll move that motion, if we want to call it that.
Here, did you capture that okay for the minutes?
Got it.
All
Got
right,
it.
perfect. That's the important thing.
So, can we get a motion to?
I'll make the motion.
Again,
There's page.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? Anyone opposed? Staying, motion carries. All right, where are we now? We are UPWP. Got the solicitation evaluation summary?
Yeah, so, we had a solicitation, as you know, back in October for Complete Streets, I'm sorry, for our UPWP, solicitation. We received 5 applications for funding, and this is really small. It's gonna be this. We received 5 applications for funding from the town of Half Moon, First County Route 109, corridor study for town of Niskuna, Route 7, complete street study, Saratoga Springs, West Avenue corridor, development impact strategy, TAP, a nonprofit in Troy for what's called the Uniting Line, and then the Village of Valley Falls, for the Valley Falls Transportation Study. So our staff evaluated the applications, as we mentioned in our last planning committee meeting, all of the applicants we needed to do some follow-up work with to get some clarifications on their applications and some additional information. With all of that discussion, TAP had decided to withdraw their application. There was a little misunderstanding in terms of how our grant funding works. So they have withdrawn, and we're hoping to maybe work with them throughout the year on some technical assistance for what they're trying to achieve. The group is called TAP, yeah. I don't think it's an actual acronym, I think. What is it?
Troy
Oh, thank you.
Professionals, architectural.
So that leaves the other four applications on the table and going through the scores and looking at geographic balance and some other factors. Our staff is recommending funding the project in Pavement and the project in Niskayuna, which fits into the budget we had allocated in reserve for this year's linkage program. Both of these are essentially complete streets type projects. We haven't worked with Half Moon in probably 10 years. And to the surprise of all of us, we've never done a linkage study in Niskayuna in 20 years. So we felt it was, for many reasons, important to engage with the town of Niskayuna. So that's our staff recommendation. Motion to approve that.
Any further discussion? How does the Niskayuna project relate to, wasn't there a project going on now on Route 7?
It was there a CDTA, wasn't there?
Was there that's not happening in construction project?
We submitted 2 grants and their second one got a lot of publicity against my will. None of them are approved or funded anyway.
Okay. The only thing I remember is, I thought CDTA was looking at maybe like a yellow line. Was that?
There is a bus rapid transit expansion study going on at CDTA, which I think you guys are kind of in the middle of right now.
Yeah, actually, it was just wrapped up. We presented, it was approved by our board, this past month, and the final report is coming within the next month or so. So it's basically wrapped up. And yeah, one of the recommendations is, if for the next PRTLI, there will be a connection from Schenectady to Troy.
That's what we've done, so you can have it.
You what?
You'll have the information when you do it, which is your school did not have.
All right, then, staff, can we have a motion to move staff's recommendation for town of Half Moon and town of Niskayuna? Second? Chris, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? Anyone opposed? Abstained, motion carries. Moving on. Let's see. That UPWP, is that what we're looking at?
That is it. So we posted a lengthy document, which I'm sure you all read cover to cover, that describes our work plan for the upcoming year. For those of you new at the table, just as a reminder, what a UPWP is, it's a Unified Planning Work Program. It's one of our core planning products, which describes how we're going to use our planning funds to fund planning work in the region for this upcoming state fiscal year. Our fiscal year goes April 1st to March 31st. So the document is separated by project task, has a number of bullets about things that we're going to do, and includes notes as to who performs the work. So will the activities be staff, consultants, CDRPC, others, timeframes, costs, and what the fund sources are. It's one of those federally required documents. As just to remind you about how we got to where we are, we had that call for projects back in October with a virtual workshop. We had a deadline of December 1st. I did want to just note we had received, as I noted, 5 applications, down from 21 last year. So that's a big shift. Now, granted, there was less money on the table this year, but it also, I think, shows that local capacity has changed and continues to evolve in our region. In December, NISDOT issued the guidance and funding estimates. So just for a side-by-side comparison, our funding was relatively flat for what's called the Federal Highway Administration PL, that's the planning funds. And also for our FTA version of planning funds, the Metropolitan Planning Program, we're relatively flat. Keep in mind that 2024 figures include the redistribution of the formula funds based on the 2020 census data. I think I've said it prior meetings, because we did have population growth in our region, and particularly Saratoga County. That's why our funding remained flat. In the western part of New York State, many MPOs lost funding because they lost population to New York City and downstate. So we were fortunate to at least maintain flat funding with the new census data, which is important. So
thank you, immigration.
Thank you, growth and immigration. The PL set aside for complete streets, that is a new fund source that was carved out of our planning resources in the infrastructure law. We didn't spend any of it in 23-24 because the guidance was late coming out in terms of what we could assign those funds toward. Now we have a complete understanding and almost actually every dollar available to us in this year is going to go to these complete streets linkage studies. Because that's really the main thing that we can fund. They actually want to fund planning studies to implement complete streets. So we couldn't even use those funds on the workshops or even the demonstration projects for that matter. So we'll be assigning those funds to that. And as I mentioned, we just yesterday got the contract signed for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant project. So we'll be kicking that off shortly and expect to draw down upon our award of planning funds for that effort. So I'll just briefly walk through what's in the UPWP. Like I said, today's action, we're going to open this up for public review. I do encourage you to skim it, to look through the range of things that we have going on. I tried to tease out some things that I thought would be of interest to this group. One of the things is we'll be restarting our equity advisory committee at some point this year. We've gotten some concepts and ideas from other places around the country. We're hoping to restart that group. We're gonna spend a lot of time implementing the public participation plan that we spoke of at our last meeting. And we're expanding our technical assistance program, the very program that we funded Mayor Butler's demonstration project through, by reserving some funding for vendors to do some things that our staff can't do. For example, a CAD drawing of the intersection to lay out how we would do the demonstration project. Right, so we try to reserve some funds to support that kind of work through our technical assistance program. As a reminder to local governments, this is a rolling program. You can apply for funds to do some small scale planning work at any time. We partner with CDRPC on that. We didn't get a lot of bites on this last year, which also tells me that the local capacity wasn't there to help apply and manage these things, but we're gonna certainly keep this program open for the upcoming year and hope to see some more applications and partners in the region.
What's the role of the equity advisory committee?
So they're, like our other advisory committees, they are going to be charged with reviewing and sort of supporting our equity planning work. So in when we're doing the tip update, for example, commenting maybe on, how well projects help the community, support EJ areas, these kinds of things. There'll be a range of things. I think they'll have a lot of involvement in the long range plan update because we want to develop that plan with an equity lens to make sure that we're, considering all the folks in the region, particularly those who are disadvantaged.
So one of the issues that's gonna come up tonight at the public meeting, and it comes up with a lot of my public projects of this, is equity. And I don't think we'll be able to address it at this table, but the issue usually comes around as the city of Schenectady is going to invest $10 million into a neighborhood. But the $10 million does not stay in the neighborhood. The physical of what was purchased stays in the neighborhood. But the jobs created and all those things, all the other parts of that project come from outside the neighborhood to the neighborhood, then leave the neighborhood. So what always comes up is, how can you engage the people in the neighborhood into the project to keep some of that dispersion of money in the neighborhood? And it's always one of these things that I have no answer for, because you go through the process and you bid it and you don't even know who's going to get the bid. So I can't, direct people to go apply to a contractor and say, go apply to this contractor, because that contractor may not get the work. So then you have another contractor. But it comes up in every meeting that I have in certain neighborhoods where they're saying everyone's just coming from the counties and the outlying areas into the city, taking advantage of the city, then leaving the city, even though I know that the benefit is to the community at the end of the day. So that equity, I have never been able to chip at. And even the attempts of it, it's above me by 9 levels.
That comes up in our planning work as well, when we're hiring consultants to do planning studies. And we try to have a diverse set of consultants work on projects, but we've heard that same.
Well, professional services is professional services. On all of our projects, we make sure we hire locals to engage the community. And we can pick them. But we cannot do these things for construction projects. Those are all bid, but it's going to come up today, is how much of the $10 million is going to go to local businesses and to create jobs in Schenectady? And there is no answer to that.
The only thing we've done, Chris, not that I'd recommend, is doing a project labor agreement. But you set that up with the local construction trades. We went concentrically out from the port. This amount of people live in the south end, you can't get them. This amount of people from Albany, this amount of people from, at least forces them to attempt and show on paper that where they've got people from, work the job.
Have you guys ever done?
In our last iteration of the Equity Advisory Committee, we did have members on that committee that were employees of like workforce development organizations that worked on issues similar to this. So I could possibly get you in touch with them and they might have answers for you or have resources to help you.
Yeah, I mean, everything has to go into the front end of the bid documents, so that it's relayed to people. So this is all upfront work, because once you put the bid out, I'm not dictating who you hire or anything from there on. That's the issue I'm having, is that, and it'll come up today multiple times.
Albany County also has an apprenticeship program requirement participation.
We do too. We have that, but it doesn't mean that the apprenticeship has to come from the neighborhood.
Oh, I had to get waivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting on all really good points. I mean, the professional services side, I think it's pretty established right now, and I think robust that with the women minority business ownership, that you could get those sort of services. Even with our maintenance facilities, when they want to purchase lumber, it's hard sometimes. It may not be the local supplier. If it's state funded, we've got some more flexibility. With the federal aid, it's basically the low bid. I mean, unless you get into project labor agreements, which tend to be downstate more so than upstate, but you're on more, getting more suppliers and labor force is certainly an issue upstate. We end up with good faith efforts on most of the projects rather than actually being able to procure the material upstate, but I mean, these are the programs that get added eventually in the longer term.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take what you're saying under advisement as we think about what we're going to do with the equity advisory committee. And not, but at least have some conversation about it.
Yeah, I mean, just it's the same conversation I have almost every year with every large federal aid project that I have, is that the money comes and goes, and I don't have an answer for it.
That's all right. You know, it's funny when you don't put a lot on the agenda, sometimes the other conversations go longer, and that's totally fine. So for the next kind of group of projects, we're continuing to support our contractor for data collection services for both traffic counts, bicycle counts, pedestrian counts, and I'll just remind local government folks that this is a service we're offering free to you. If you need a count, you need a turning movement count, you need an AADT count, you want a bike trail count, we also have eco counters to do trail counts. Just reach out to us and we're happy to provide those services free of charge. So we're gonna definitely continue to invest in that. We're also gonna be working with CDRPC to develop population, household, and employment projections for use in our regional travel demand model. Which is sort of the nuts and bolts piece of how we calibrate the travel demand model. And we're gonna see more and more use of ArcGIS Online for interactive maps, more like the regional trails map and other topics. You'll see more and more of that in the coming year. We're initiating this model update through some of the work that I just mentioned. We're supporting and assisting CDRPC with the development of the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, which is the US EPA Pollution Reduction Program grant funded effort. We'll be hopefully developing some kind of an interactive mapping tool for our congestion management process data. And then we're gonna also manage a consultant as part of our long range plan update and as part of our infrastructure planning to develop revenue projections, prepare infrastructure condition forecasts and repair cost estimates for local federal aid roads, and to prepare a financial plan for the MTP, for the long range plan. So that's a piece that we really can't do easily here without more outside help. So we're looking forward to outsourcing that one for the development of the long range plan and our financial plan moving forward. In terms of some other activities, we're continuing to work with DOT on the development of the New York State Freight Transportation Plan. We're continuing our support of ADA transition plans in local government, so we're extending the contract on that, which is also on our agenda a little later. We're gonna continue to monitor and record our work related to developing a regional active transportation network. And we're going to expand our efforts on clean cities. We've been supporting clean cities for many years, but our efforts have tended to focus on the immediate 4 counties. With our new hire, Tess, who just joined us this week, we're going to expand that into the broader service area of the Clean Cities Coalition, so Montgomery and a few other counties outside of the core. One of the biggest things we'll be tackling this upcoming year is the development of a new TIP. So get ready for a lot of meetings come January and February of 2025. That's your heads up now. As of today, sitting here, the department is still saying they need to have a TIP delivered to them June of 2025. We haven't gotten any more information other than that at this point, but we're hopeful that we'll get more information early summer. So that way we can start planning our time here with you folks, as well as completing the development of all the tools that we'll need to actually do a solicitation, should there be one, and evaluate all the projects. Another service that we offer is on-demand modeling, and I just wanted to point this out again. We're happy to work with local governments and others on analysis of new or revised roadway configurations, modeling traffic pattern revisions, detours related to emergencies and special events, with anything that you might have questions of, even something like the Chick-fil-A is coming to my road and I'd like to model what the impact of that is, right? We can offer that service to you. So, just keep that in mind, that that's a resource available to anyone. We can do background traffic growth rates, look at trip generation data, any of those things. For our ADA, our human services transportation planning work, we're also going to be doing a tools of the trade workshop at some point, probably in June, maybe in partnership with one of our local counties, to be determined. We're also going to be hosting NACTO transit street design training for the region, so that's something I suspect will happen early summer. We're still trying to do a survey about what's motivating drivers' transportation choices. We'll probably have follow-up on that in the coming weeks. And then the 3 big things that we'll be working on this year really are the TIP update, the Regional Vision Zero Safety Action Plan, and the development of a new long-range plan. Those really will be our 3 big things, but the Regional Vision Zero Safety Action Plan, you'll start to see some activity in the coming weeks. Now, like I said earlier, now that the consultant contract is signed. And finally, we have this long list of community planning studies that are at various stages of completion. The ones in East Greenbush, East and North Greenbush, Brunswick, Colony, and Schenectady for Albany Crane should be finishing up in this by March, if not April at the latest. Many of the others are just getting started, and we today funded 2 new ones to add to our list for the next 2 years. And then we continue to partner with Colony and Malta on support of the generic environmental impact statement traffic reviews. So that's sort of the bulk of what's in the UPWP. We're here today to have you folks review and approve the draft for public review. We're going to open a 25-day public review period today. We have a virtual workshop to kind of review this with the public on February 13th. We'll also have an open house here in person on February 28th. And then on March 7th, the policy board will take action on the final version of the UPWP. And that pretty much sums it up. There'll be some editorial changes. We do have some minor editorial additions from what went onto the agenda today. We had some actions taken today that will be incorporated into the draft, and then the draft, if it's released for public review, will incorporate all the actions taken here today.
Thank you, Sandy.
So very quick overview. There'll be a lot going on.
Any questions, Sandy? So our action is just to, approve the draft for public review.
Correct.
Can I get a motion to that? Bob, do I have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Sandy. Moving on to what our public involvement plan for the new in motion, we're calling it.
Yep, so this is just another piece to our development of the new long range plan, and I'll turn it over to Jen to present.
Sure. So, last month Stephen presented on our draft public participation plan, and as part of that plan, we are requiring public involvement plans for all of our regional and sub-regional projects. So this is the public involvement plan for the in-motion plan. So this is how we're going to achieve the goals of the public participation policy and engage the public through the planning process. Next slide, Sandy. So of course, the MTP public involvement plan goals are consistent with our public participation goals. So they'll be continuous, thorough, inclusive, and effective. Next slide. So, as we noted also last meeting, when we talked about the MTP process, a shift from the previous New Visions process is we're going to do public involvement in all phases of this plan. Phase one, which has been really ongoing since last year, included the update to the congestion management process, the development of the coordinated plan, and some other planning initiatives. So we've already been using crowdsourcing and surveys online and in person, using media and social media and online platforms to promote these, and we're going to continue to expand on those in all of our phases. Next slide. And this is just kind of our public participation schedule. I don't expect you to be able to see all the details of this, but just kind of shows really the range of the strategies that are being employed in all phases. Next slide. So public input strategies will be tailored to each stakeholder group with alternatives and other options. So there's always going to be some kind of tool or strategy available to all of our stakeholder groups. And all input and feedback will be summarized and shared with our in-motion task force, which reminder, if you're interested, let us know.
We'll be calling you soon.
Yeah, if you haven't already volunteered. As well as planning committee and policy board. So planning committee and policy board, obviously welcome to participate in the whole process, but will also be presented with all of the feedback and input we receive from the different stakeholder groups. Next slide. So the in-motion plan process will encourage diverse viewpoints and values. So we propose the use of an equity assessment tool to measure outreach efforts and input received relative to the geographic distribution of targeted populations. So as we plan outreach and as we receive input and feedback, we will be doing like a mapping exercise to see where we're doing outreach, where is feedback coming from, and how does it align with the distribution of different populations, and are we capturing a diverse viewpoint? And we'll apply this regularly, and we're hoping it helps us identify any gaps, and we'll be able to summarize this at the end of the plan to really demonstrate the inclusiveness and thoroughness of our public outreach efforts. And of course, to have an effective public input process, we are proposing a mix of traditional and kind of more bold and innovative and creative strategies that can meaningfully contribute to the decision-making process. Our experience in the last few years has been that it is sometimes better to go to the people than to ask them to come to us. So we're going to, we're gonna have lots of surveys and online meetings or open houses. We're also gonna look for opportunities to go to the community. So whether it's doing like our pop-ups at bus stations that we've done in the past, or if your community is having a meeting, or there's a group in your community having a meeting and they'd like us to come talk, we'd be willing to do that. And we'll adapt materials, adapt our presentations to whatever group that would like a presentation or to engage in this process. So this is just an overview of the public involvement plan, and we have a draft plan available. And we look forward to everyone's participation as we really start getting into this update.
Thank you, Jen.
I'm gonna give you guys a sneak peek. I didn't tell Jen I was going to do this. The project website, which is still in development, and we're hoping to have go live it's technically live now, but we plan to do a public push for this filing. This is a website specific to the update of the long range plan. So it's a very modern, sleek look, and we're hoping it'll have a lot more interactivity and be more engaging for the public and for you folks to follow along throughout the whole process. So should be it. We do need a motion for the approving the public person involvement plan.
One second.
So,
Lisa, any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you, Jen. Now we're into draft limited English proficiency plan.
Yep, I will get to the right spot here and turn that over to Rima. Right.
Okay, so we last updated the limited English proficiency plan back in 2020, and we update it every couple of years to keep on top of the demographics in our region because people are moving in and out. Could you forward the slide? So just a quick recap on sort of the context of where, why we do this plan, our federal regulations. Like and other regulations that dictate that DOT funding recipients take responsible steps to ensure meaningful access to benefits, services, information, programs, and activities by LEP persons of all of our activities. So the guidance provides this framework, four-part analysis to determine eligibility of LEP persons. One, sort of determining the number or percent of LEP persons in our region, the frequency of contact with LEP persons that the Transportation Council comes into contact with, the nature and importance of our services to LEP persons, and sort of determining whether or not we have adequate services available to provide assistance to them. So just quickly, I don't know if you can even see this slide from there, but the gist of it is, so in 2020, we found that the eligible language groups on a regional level were Spanish and Chinese. When we looked at the American Community Survey 5-year estimate, the most recent data is from 2022. In addition to Spanish and Chinese, Arabic qualified. The Arabic language group qualified because it had more than 1,000 people. Sort of the recommended criteria is to use the cutoff of either 1,000 people in the language group or 5% of your total population in that language group. So we are looking at the 1,000-person cutoff. So those 3 languages qualify, and then the map on the right just shows the percentage of people in our region per census tract that are limited English proficient according to the ACS data. And that's for all language groups. So it doesn't pull out the individual languages. So just really quickly, the major changes to the new draft, as we just mentioned, we added the Arabic language group. And then it just sort of clarifies existing policies, which is helpful for staff, implementing the policies, and then sort of expand what we determine to be meaningful access. So we sort of call out this practice of public notification statements, of making sure that people understand that we do have translation and interpretive services available, and putting that statement on documents on our website. So people, there's more awareness that they do have that available to them if they need it. And a new expansion that we put in there is that we're just going to, as a matter of course, translate the executive summaries of our core products into those 3 eligible languages going forward. So this is just a breakdown, more detail of how we're going to be implementing it in various configurations of our products. The Title VI notice and complaint procedure. As before, we're going to maintain that document in the 3 eligible LEP languages, other core MPO products. As I mentioned, the executive summaries are going to be maintained in the 3 languages. And then if somebody has another language that they need it translated into, they can request that from us and we will provide that translation to them. And if they, after that point, need, the full document translated, then we would provide the full document translated as well. For sub-regional plans and studies like linkage projects, if it occurs in an area where there are LEP eligible language groups, and there's a request to translate that executive summary into that eligible language group, then we would comply with that request. And then other written translation requests, like agendas, meeting minutes, public notices, newsletters. If we get a request to translate it into a language, then we would translate it into the language. And then the website would just be available to translate, like there's free browser-based services like Google Translate, where you could just set that up yourself. And we do have a written translator service available to us that we will have all of our written translations professionally done. We're not going to be using Google Translate or anything like that. And then for oral interpretations, we have a service available. If we're out and about in the community and we encounter somebody who wants to engage with us, but they are not English proficient, then we can act accordingly, assess the situation and determine the appropriate level of engagement and accommodation, given the circumstances, which may be to, contact our interpreter and, request an interpretation, and it's up to 30 seconds to get an interpreter on the phone. So it's a pretty quick turnaround for that. And then the policy, as it was in the past and is now, is if somebody wants to attend a meeting in person or virtually and wants to request an interpretation, then they would need to give us 48 hours notice to do that.
Thank you, Rima. Any questions?
If you keep track, is there a high level of encounters with people that?
Yeah, so, good question. So there isn't a high level of engaged, encounters with LEP individuals right now. We do occasionally come across them if we're, tabling, like, for example, when we do an annual table at the crossings, the mall, the
Crossgates Mall.
The Crossgates Mall, thank you. It's not the park, the mall, the Albany County Safety Fair every year. And we pretty consistently every year encounter a small handful of limited English proficient individuals at that event, most frequently Spanish speakers. So, that's something that we can anticipate going forward, that we will, encounter a small handful of people. And occasionally when we're like tabling, like at one of the bus stops or something, we might encounter predominantly, I think, Spanish speakers is who we've encountered usually. But, through the PPP update, we're looking to sort of increase our outreach and engagement with the full range of our population in our region. So we're looking to sort of better engage the population. So we're trying to be more prepared to do that.
Thank you. Any additional questions? So we're looking for a motion here to recommend the policy board approval. Is that our motion from the draft LEP plan? Can we get a motion for that tonight? Second. Chris, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye. Anyone opposed, abstained? Thank you, Rima. Motion carries. Now we're on to the regional truck parking study final report approval. That's Chris?
Yep.
Thanks. So, for those of you who were here last month, you acted to release the project for public review. That review went from the 4th of January to the 29th. We received many comments, but 2 that were substantive that we revised the report. One was to revise the description of the New York State Thruway cashless tolling project. There was to revise the description of recommendation 2 to clarify the geographic scope. We made those changes, worked with the members, posted the final report to the website. If you want to take a look at it, it's there. So next step should be to recommend the study report adoption to policy board, and we'll incorporate the findings into the next MPP update since we're working on that now. And if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer.
Any questions for Chris? So we're looking for a motion to recommend, once again, the policy.
Last step going to policy board.
The draft regional truck parking study.
Is all going to the next one, the special one, or is the
Yeah.
special one just a special?
The special one is just dealing with the Livingston Avenue Bridge amendments. The one in March, we are not gonna go through this level of detail with the policy board, but this is all in anticipation of documents we've been working on to anticipate the certification review.
So,
Make a motion.
take a motion. Go ahead, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? Anyone opposed, abstained? Thank you, Chris. I know it was a lot of work.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Draft advisory committee operating policies approval.
Yep, so just real quick, we've gone through this in past meetings and just since we last met, we've shared this with 2 of our advisory committees and only received 1 substantive comment, which is just clarifying our policy related to the use of our logos and letterhead and other council-owned media. So we've made that adjustment in the document. A few other editorial corrections were made. So at this point, we're going to ask you to recommend the approval of the draft policies for policy board action.
Any questions of Sandy? All right, so we need a motion to recommend policy again.
Second.
Laura, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? Anyone opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you, Sandy. Now I'm moving on to the ADA transition plan solicitation. That's Carrie.
Yes, this is the final action item today, and we are, just share the screen for those listening in remotely. So as part of the UPWP we just discussed, we did resume our ADA transition plan work. So basically at this point, we're looking just to issue the solicitation for community-based transition plan projects for the upcoming year. We hope to be able to do that following the March policy board meeting with a April 5th submission deadline. We've already developed the application material online. It's pretty straightforward. I think we're getting to the point where most of the large communities in the region have already participated in developing a transition plan or engaging us in some manner. So, the handful of you that still have not, this is an opportunity to do that. But we will certainly, see what kind of interest we get from other communities in the region. So we
So
just
it's
need
$100,000, is that?
$100,000 for the.
Consistent with
Yep.
what you've been doing?
Yep. It's about the same application.
Any questions, comments? Then we need a motion to recommend once again to the policy board authorization of the solicitation of ADA. Motion. Chris, do we have a second? Lisa. Any further discussion? And all those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. On to discussion items. Transportation Council certification review.
Yes.
The youth.
So let me share on this. This is be brief. Oops. So we are, as I mentioned earlier, due for our certification review, which is basically the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration staff assess our compliance with federal regulations. It's done every 4 years. We went through this back right when COVID was going on. We were the first MPO in the nation to have a virtual certification review back then. So they're going back to in-person with a virtual option this time around. Please mark these dates on your calendars. March 12th through the 14th is when the federal team will be here on site to discuss all things MPO and how we're doing, how we're complying with federal law. We're gonna have a public survey that is being managed by the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration, available publicly beginning February 15th. That will be open until April 15th. We'll be having a public meeting here at the office on March 13th. You all are welcome to stop by and attend. You're also welcome, and we're also offering a virtual option, so you don't have to be here physically. We just ask, with the Zoom situation that people pre-register if they're going to participate virtually. But throughout that 3-day period, there'll be various presentations here in the room. DOT and CDTA staff in particular will be asking for some of your time to be here for some of that. But we will also be offering virtual options to participate throughout the day. And again, it's an opportunity for them to assess how we're doing. A lot of the actions we took today, which seem very administrative and technical in some ways, is to get in compliance with a lot of the regulations that we're required to comply with. A lot changed with the infrastructure law. So we're still even waiting on federal guidance on what the planning rule will be, which apparently was ready to go and has been pulled back. So there's still debate at the federal level on what our final planning requirements are going to be. But again, this is your opportunity to kind of weigh in and be involved in the process. And Nicole McGrath from the Federal Highway Administration and Ayla Shermer from the Federal Transit Administration will be sort of the leads on this, representing the two federal agencies. If you have any questions about the process or comments about the MPO, you can email them directly. You'll start seeing some public push in mid-February on sort of announcing this. It's sort of an administrative exercise, but it's feedback for us as an MPO to know what we're doing well and where we can improve. So, and that's it.
It's not like, oh, you don't get your certification or you.
No, I mean, usually the end result is a report that talks about things that we're doing well, we call them commendations, things that we can do better, which is a series of recommendations, which is most of what we got last time. And then on rare occasions, you get what's called a corrective action, which is something that you're not in compliance on and you really need to address immediately. That's more uncommon than common. Most, I would suspect we'll get some recommendations.
All right, summary of 2022-27 TIP project selection moves. Jacobs.
Is still here?
So we had 5 project selection changes since January. Most of them are just moving phases from fiscal year 23 into fiscal year 24. And then we had 2 projects where we split out right-of-way incidentals from a right-of-way acquisition phase, so no real major cost increases on any of those, just kind of moving money around.
Just want to move to deliveries, delivery update,
Yep.
right?
Yep, also me. So as usual, actually this month, I think we've got the table online only. I think we might be trying to move towards that, save on printing. So as always, encourage everyone to take a look at our project delivery table. Feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call if you have any updates on your projects. Don't have a local project update this month, but next month I'll be reaching out to City of Waterville, City of Cohoes, and Village of Green Island for their tip updates. So if you're on the call or at the meeting and part of those communities, keep an eye out for that email, probably be coming out by the end of the week. And that's it for project delivery.
Thank you, Jacob. On NISDOT project delivery.
I mean, just briefly, in January, we had 3 lettings. 2 were below the engineer's estimate and 1 above. The 378 over the Hudson, the bridge painting project, as well as the multi-site culvert repair were both below the engineer's estimate. The multi-site deck replacement was above, quite a bit above, $1.5 million above the estimate. Between the 3 projects, they sort of wash one another out, at least money-wise. We don't have any lightings in February, but for March and into April, basically 2 projects with our multi-site paving will be out, and then as well as the interstate, the overhead sign multi-site contract for the lightings over the next couple of months.
Thank you, Rob. Status of regional transportation planning initiatives. You, Sandy?
Yeah, just briefly, we have the table available on our website that summarizes the status of all of the current linkage studies and regional planning studies and things as large as the 787 health study. The only notable thing is we'll be issuing a request for expressions of interest to consultants for the Colony Route 5 planning study sometime in the next week or 2. So be looking for that. Okay.
Thank you. On to regional and local planning updates. The council, anything to add?
I think we've had enough. I just do want to highlight our lease is up at this building in the not too distant future. We are looking at office space options that include staying here. I may have mentioned this in the past. We have some final buildings we're looking at in Latham and in Manans, and out here in Outer Colony. So stay tuned. Once we know more about where we're gonna be and how that's gonna play out, we'll let you know, but just something else to throw on our plate while we're busy doing all these other things. So we're gonna try to keep the office as central to everybody as we can, which is why we're sticking to the sort of Albany, Latham, Colony area.
Is your lease the same?
Well, we're not the same lease, but we're both participating in the same process of looking at other spaces.
Would you move the group or would you move independently?
Well, that all depends. We're looking at both options.
Yeah.
You're dealing from a position of strength, probably, I would think, as far as finding office space.
I think, I hope so.
I would think so. I imagine
hope
you
so.
have people happy to have you. Okay, thank you, Sandy. CRPC, Mark?
Sandy mentioned our EPA work on the climate action plan. The priority climate action plan is due March 1st, so it's right around the corner. Once that is submitted, we'll be, doing a press release and announcing what that reveals. The actual comprehensive climate action plan isn't due till 25, but we'll continue to work with our Climate Action Coalition on the development of that. I just want to remind everyone, you may have heard that our, 3rd round, version 3, of our Clean Energy Communities Program has been announced. Municipalities under 40,000 can be eligible for up to 250,000 in match-free grants for clean energy projects. And communities 40,000 and above are eligible for up to $350,000 dollars in match-free grant funding. So encourage you to reach out to our climate smart clean energy communities coordinators to find out more details on the program and how you can benefit from it. CDRPC yesterday released an RFP for a feasibility study related to a regional open access fiber network. And that would be municipally owned infrastructure to provide middle mile connections in our region's broadband network. We will also be providing to the counties and certain municipalities some on-demand services as they look into develop applications for the BEAD program and the federal money that has been allocated to the state for broadband build out. In addition, I wanted to just flag for our municipal members around the table that the Connect All office has opened its municipal infrastructure program funding. And that again is for targeted towards municipalities, potentially municipalities working with internet service providers to build out publicly owned infrastructure. Tight timeframes, the first, I believe, deadline for submissions of applications is April 1st. And the final submission deadline is June 1st. So if you don't have something in mind, it's going to be very difficult for you to participate in that. The next program targeted towards both internet service providers and other stakeholders is the BEAD program. That's the Broadband Equity Program. And that's where the lion's share of the state funding will be for broadband build out. So more to come on that.
Thank you, Norm. CDPA.
So, brief update, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, wrapped up work on our BRT expansion and priority corridor study. So the main outcome of that is the recommendation of the Schenectady Detroit corridor as the next potential corridor to BRT, as well as a number of other segments around the region that are not being recommended for future BRT lines, but for other priority treatments, similar to some of the things we do on BRT, like signal priority, queue jumpers, and improved infrastructure. So our board has adopted that. Right now, there's final edits being made to the report, and that will be out by the end of this month, I'd say. Right now, we are mainly focused on our transit development plan update. The initial public outreach and existing conditions, parts of that project are wrapped up now. And right now, we are in the process of developing scenarios and ideas to present to the public later on this spring, which will inform the assembly of the final TDP later this year. And that's basically it for CDTA right now.
All right, thank you. NISDOC.
First, I'd like to acknowledge and embarrass Kelly Kircher over here. Kelly has received a promotion and will be moving on to our traffic and safety group. I'm thankful she's still staying in the region, and she will be retaining her project management duties for the 787 study to make sure we have continuity there. But she will be moving down the hall. I know Lorenzo Stefano and his team are making the rounds with the municipalities as well as our consultant partners. I can't emphasize enough the emphasis on the MOU. It's we're not talking about a regional director commitment list anymore. It's the MOU with the legislature. This administration is much more engaged with the elected representatives than the prior administration was. So not just our area, but around the state, you know, we have a concern about the rollover of projects coming into a new program update. And, you know, we talked a little bit earlier about the ability to deliver and things. I mean, that's certainly going to be in the equation now, but we're getting them to eliminate the vernacular of regional director commitment list, and it is much more now the MOU with the legislature, and the department is reporting on that quarterly to the legislature of the status of projects, so please, you know, conservative deliverable sort of in our scheduling particular, maybe, a notch more than we had been doing it prior. And like we've said, we've never, if somebody had the ability to deliver it sooner, we've always made that work somehow. It just, the things dragging is sort of where the sort of red lights all go off. So more about that going forward.
Messages, move your projects along as best you can.
Thank you, Bill. The New York State Thruway Authority, I'm assuming nobody.
We did not have anyone available today.
Albany County Airport, Connor.
So the 20-year master plan that we have spoken about past committee meetings is currently in state and federal review. We're estimating another 3 months of review for both entities. Hopefully coming back for final adoption May, June timeframe. So I'll have a final document around the mid-year to share with the committee. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Yep. Albany Port District passed.
Next month or two, we'll find out from NYSERDA, what, if and what they approve for their next large offshore wind projects throughout the state and generally off Long Island. That has a direct impact on how our project moves forward. So hopefully we'll find out some new funding in next month. In between that, we just are about to start a $600,000 rail improvement infrastructure project in the port, primarily to move PE's bigger power generation pieces. The last couple of years, they've gotten their over-dimensional pieces, just gotten that much bigger that the existing rail can't accommodate it. So we're going to be replacing by about 1,000 feet of track that can go into some of our warehouses and onto the dock, onto the wharf. In the next hopefully month, that will get some pieces moving that are sort of sitting in limbo, either interconnected or on other tracks, so that they can get into storage at the port or out directly onto ship to go overseas. So after that's done, I think that'll be just about every track and internal part of the maritime terminal will have been replaced or rehabbed in the last 5 years. So it's starting to look like new right now, which is nice. So that's it.
Thank you, Pat. Local government, anybody? Highlight anything?
I do want to thank everybody that did come to our Saratoga County Planning and Zoning Conference. It was very well attended, over 600 people from a couple different states, so a lot of places represented, so very exciting, thank you. And save the date for February 5th, 2025.
Guarantee that Friday of the planning committee.
Please note the upcoming meetings and events. Policy board February 15th, rate advisory February 21st, regional operations and safety advisory the 22nd, and policy board on March 7th. Special meeting is the 15th. Right?
Special meeting is the 15th. You're all welcome to obviously participate virtually if you were interested in seeing the presentation. Most of the members were giving them the option to participate virtually. We're hoping it'll be less than half an hour for the whole meeting. So we appreciate everybody's flexibility in helping shepherd this important regional project.
All right, all we need is a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, great. See you, when's our next?
We'll be April.
Hey, Tom.